It's very, very likely that if you've clicked on this video, you're struggling with some sort of body fat you'd like to lose around your body. Maybe you're lacking a lot of muscle. Maybe you're just generally unhappy with how your body or physique looks currently. And truth be told, several years ago, I was struggling with those same issues. I had a little bit of body fat I just wasn't very happy with, but I certainly lacked a lot of muscle. So I kind of had this naturally skinny fat physique. And the problem with this is if I were to go straight onto a bulk, try and add some size, I would quite likely just add a bunch of fat and make those areas I dislike worse without really seeing much more muscle added. But on the flip side, if I were to go on a dieting phase, I'm already pretty damn skinny. So I'm only going to get smaller, feel weaker, and just not look the way I want to look. So I'm kind of in this purgatory of, do I go on a bulk and sort of accept that I'm going to get fat and it's going to get worse before it gets better? Or do I go on a cut, be super disciplined and go backwards and look worse, make my clothes sort of have the sleeve still hanging off and looking terrible to get lean and then try and go back onto a bulk, but without gaining the body fat? And it's kind of this, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And if you do it wrong, you might go backwards. And as we all know, trying to get in shape is not easy. So you don't really want to waste all that effort doing the wrong thing. You don't want to climb the ladder and get to the top of the mountain and go, oh, this is the wrong mountain, I should have went on that one. And then you've got to go all the way back and start again. So I'm making this video to show you the only way to fix the skinny fat physique. And I'm making this as if it was talking to myself 10 years ago, because I've made a lot of mistakes. I learned a hell of a lot over that time. And I've also helped over 100 skinny fat men fix their physique, lose the belly fat and gain muscle without having to do cuts and bulks exclusively. Now, disclaimer, I hate saying this is the only way, because fitness, there is, arguably multiple ways to achieve a similar result. A lot of it comes down to genetics, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, as the saying goes. That being said, with a skinny fat physique, I do find it needs to be a lot more precise than just losing body fat in general or just gaining muscle in general. And typically a skinny fat physique, if you follow conventional advice, you're not guaranteed to get the results that you want. And because over the past few years I've been coaching skinny fat men, I've started to see the patterns that emerge, and they all struggle with very similar things. This video is intended to show you what I would suggest when it comes to losing the belly fat and gaining muscle. And because I've helped over 100 men fix the skinny fat physique, I've kind of boiled it down to sort of 4 main steps. And I want to break those down in this video to show you, so I can help you reach your physique goals. Just so I know if this is reaching the right people, if you struggle with a skinny fat physique and this video is going to be helpful to you, please hit the like button so I can work out whether this is getting seen by the right people. And if you want to guarantee that you fix your skinny fat physique, feel free to subscribe so you can see my future posts. Now, I don't like those videos that string things out, make it long-winded and basically pussyfoot around. I'm going to jump straight into these 4 phases that I do with my clients. So if we start right back at the beginning, if you're struggling with a skinny fat physique, you can't just jump onto a cut and expect things to go the way you want to. And jumping on a bulk, might work for some. If your body fat percentage is not really that high and you're not too bothered about the amount of body fat you have and you're kind of skinny with a bit of fat, maybe it's great to jump in with a bulk first. But I would say 9 times out of 10, starting off with a recomposition is going to be the way to go. Now, what do I mean by recomposition? It's kind of I hope this doesn't come across as clickbaity. It's a cut. Right, I just said no cuts, no bulks, right? But when people think cut, what do they think? They think cardio, they think salads, they think running, they think calorie deficit that's big, get shredded, right? And there's nothing wrong with those things. But if you were to do that right now as a skinny fat guy, you're going to lose a lot of muscle, your performance is going to be rubbish, and you're just going to shrink, and you may not even lose that much body fat. So when I say recomposition, I'm referring to focusing on a smaller calorie deficit, somewhere between 250 to 500 calories below your maintenance. So there are a few reasons why I would suggest starting with a smaller calorie deficit rather than a large one. And one of the main reasons for that is the bigger the calorie deficit, the more likelihood of you losing muscle and going catabolic. Now, a safe place to be with your calories as a deficit is somewhere between 250 and 500 calories. I wouldn't normally recommend 250 calories as a deficit, because if you're off by a few hundred calories, you're probably just going to end up maintaining. But a 500 calorie deficit is a healthy deficit. There's a little bit of a room for error in case you do mess up, and it's not crazy like 1,000, 2,000 where you're just going to run out of energy, testosterone levels crash, and you start losing muscle and feeling like crap and probably just drop the ball and binge and then go backwards like most people. So a smaller calorie deficit is going to be a great way to start. Now, another reason for this is if you're relatively new, and if you've got a skinny fat physique, you're probably still quite new to training, you can still gain a significant amount of muscle in a calorie deficit. Now, if this was me, I'd be in the comments going, no, you're wrong, that's absolutely crap. La la la. But you can still gain muscle in a calorie deficit if you're still new to the gym, because you still have untapped potential with your newbie gains. Now, I'm just going to put a few pictures here on this video to show you what I mean. Some of these clients have lost body fat, but they've also gained muscle just doing a recomposition. And the reason for this is the calories are in a smaller deficit, they're eating a large amount of protein, and their training is very, very specific to them. So they're still overloading and stimulating muscle growth. And because they've got all the extra stored body fat, they can still gain some muscle as they lose it. Now, if this is your your third cut or fourth cut or your fifth year training, probably not likely that you're going to gain muscle in a calorie deficit. So don't expect to see much muscle gains in a calorie deficit. But if you're quite new to this, a recomposition done correctly will tremendously help you gain some muscle. So we're talking about a 500 calorie deficit, and we want to make sure that the protein ratio with your macros, your proteins, carbs, and fats, that your protein is as high as it can be. I would normally suggest 1 gram per pound of lean body weight, but that can get a little bit tricky to work out. And I find there's no point overthinking it and stressing about it. Just get a rough amount of protein to work with, and you can adjust it as you go along. Most of my clients, I normally start them off around 30%. They need to increase it, we increase it. If we need to decrease it, which has happened, we can decrease it. Now, if you're a little bit confused about knowing your numbers or what numbers exactly for you to hit, I do have a free nutritional blueprint in the description. Nothing magical, nothing silly. It's just the exact equations that I use for my clients and how to set your macro ratios and how to monitor it and adjust it. It's no fluff, it's no bullshit. It's purely there just to help you get your numbers, because if I had my numbers right, I would look 10 times better 6 years ago. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you will know that I always talk about calories, and that's because for most men, that is the biggest thing they get wrong. Quick side tangent, how many times, maybe this is you, do you hear someone talking about the supplements that they're taking, the new diet that they're following, and the new workout plan they've got off some sort of influencer or celebrity on the internet, and they've got this big old plan how they're going to get amazing results and look incredible, and then you see them a few months down the line and nothing's changed. And that's because it doesn't matter what supplements you're taking, it doesn't matter what training routine you're doing, it doesn't matter what food you're eating, if your calories are not where they need to be. And this is why it took me so long to fix my skinny fat physique. I was eating the chicken, broccoli and rice, down in the gainer shakes, eating oats, brown rice as well, which I hate, although ironically I actually quite like it these days. But back then it was boring and I hated it. I was doing lots of cardio, lots of compound lifts, all good stuff. And there was nothing wrong with the things I was doing. It's all healthy and it's all good. But one key component was missing, and that was I wasn't hitting a consistent calorie target. I wasn't in a surplus and I wasn't in a deficit enough. So I ended up just maintaining. Yes, I got stronger. Yes, I got fitter and I felt good for it, but I looked the freaking same. As soon as I realized, oh, I need to hit either a surplus or a deficit, and here's where my numbers should be, I transformed within 9 months. And I'll put a picture up here. I went from skinny fat to relatively muscular, quite lean in about 9 months. I actually gained 40 pounds. And as you can see in the photo, I didn't really gain much body fat. And the only thing that changed here was I just tracked my calories and ate relatively normal food. Obviously my training was good and I was overloading, but I was doing that anyway and wasn't getting anywhere. So food, calories, absolutely important. You don't need creatine, you don't need CLAs, you don't need pre-workout or citrulline malate or L-glutamine. Yes, those things are cool and they can help supplement you, tricks in the name right there, but none of it will work unless your calories are right. If you get your calories right, I think that would fix 90% of men will get better results if they fix their calories. And someone that's coached genuinely well over 100 men, I see it time and time again, as soon as they get the numbers right, the results are tenfold. So yes, I've longed this bit out. That's not my intention. I'm just trying to make sure that you get what you need to get the results you want. Get your numbers right. If you want to follow a meal plan that hits those numbers, fine. It's up to you how you hit those numbers. What I do with my clients is they track their food and then I will review it in depth weekly and see what needs to be changed. Sometimes their food is great straight off the bat and it works well for them. Sometimes it's terrible and I'll start making some recipe suggestions. But I don't think meal plans work for most people because you can't stick to them forever. There's no point sticking to a meal plan, getting results for a few weeks and then losing it the second there's a birthday party or a holiday or Christmas. So hopefully my point's been made. You need to get those calories right. So if you want a recomposition, we need a small calorie deficit and high protein. Now the second part of recomposition, of course, is what style of training should you be doing to lose body fat and gain muscle. Now a lot of people will suggest muscle hypertrophy training, which is obviously the best way to gain muscle and fantastic. But if you are in a calorie deficit, it's relatively unlikely that you're actually going to grow muscle with a muscle hypertrophy rep range. Now what I normally suggest with my clients is that we go for strength in a calorie deficit. Now the reason for this is just simple adaptation. If you're lifting lighter weights for more reps and you're eating less calories, the muscle's not generally going to get much bigger. It doesn't need to, it's not going to adapt in that manner. You might do, again, it does depend on genetics. That's why I talk about the strength training right now, because it is optimized for you to keep and potentially gain muscle if you're in a calorie deficit. Because if you're eating less food and you're getting stronger in the gym, your body's going to have a need to keep muscle tissue and not much of a need to keep body fat. So the deficit, something's going to go. If you're getting stronger and you're in a calorie deficit, you're more likely to lose body fat and keep more muscle if the training routine is correct. Just a quick example of this, because I don't want to be too vague. There's nothing wrong with a bro split, a pull push legs or push pull legs, whatever order you want to do it in. You can do an upper body, lower body day. You could do every muscle group separately, arms, chest, shoulders, back, legs, whatever you want to do. As long as you're hitting each muscle group once per week and there is some form of progressive overload with some reps and or strength over time, and that calorie deficit is perfect and your protein's up to standard, there is no reason why you won't continuously drop body fat and potentially gain more muscle. So that kind of covers the recomposition side of things. And if you want to save yourself the time, if you do that right, correctly, and you train hard enough and you change your routine and you adapt your numbers over time as you progress, most people will get their skinny fat physique fixed just doing that. As I always show some of my clients here on the screen, these were entirely done through recompositions. Reese, for example, was actually able to gain a significant amount of muscle throughout the whole cut. Now, again, I hate the fitness industry. I think it's full of liars and charlatans, and most PTs don't know their fucking ass from their elbows. So I don't want to BS anyone. Yes, Reese gained a shite ton of muscle and he did it naturally in a calorie deficit, but he did train really hard, and you may be limited to your genetic adaptations. As you can see, if you do a recomposition properly, you're very likely to gain some muscle, if not at least keep as much muscle as you've got. So by the end of it, you look leaner and more muscular. So that kind of covers the recomposition phase. Some people will get to the end of that phase and that's all they need to do. They can take their shirt off on the beach, they've got abs, their muscles popping, job done, happy days. And I've had several clients work with me and just finish the recomposition phase and be happy there. Now, if for some reason you still want to gain more size, which was the category that I fitted into, then you're probably going to need to do the second phase, which is what I refer to as an overload phase. And what I mean by this is it's essentially a reverse diet paired with muscle hypertrophy training. So as you increase your calories to your new maintenance after getting so lean, pairing that with a muscle hypertrophy training routine will stimulate a hell of a lot more muscle growth. But because you're starting it as lean as possible after a recomposition and gradually building up your calories, you're going to gain lean muscle and avoid gaining body fat, essentially working your way up towards a lean bulk. Now, just for some context, I'm not really against the whole dirty bulking thing, and I've done several of these myself in the past, and they are a lot of fun, and I did enjoy them. However, the problems with a dirty bulk are a few things. One, you're just going to gain more fat than muscle than you think. I used to think that a bigger surplus meant more muscle, right? The whole eat big to get big, right, babe? And I'm not saying that's wrong. If you want to do that and you're not fussed about gaining body fat on the way up, not a problem. Do it. It's fun. However, for me, I went on a dirty bulk. I didn't feel good. I looked terrible. I had a lot of breakouts and I gained fat quite quickly. So halfway through the bulk, I wasn't very happy with how I was looking. I kind of had to stick to it and make it worse before it gets better. And by the end of the bulk, I was just kind of fat with a bit more muscle. And then I have this mammoth of a cut waiting for me at the end of it. So once I gained that muscle and I had to go back onto that cut, I really didn't want to. And as soon as I did, my strength started coming down. I felt small, I shrunk, but I still had a significant amount of body fat on my frame. And by the time I got to the end of the cut, it took way longer than I thought it would take. And I had dropped my strength and size significantly, and made me realize, okay, I basically just put on a lot of fat and just justified, you know, the lack of discipline of, oh, I'm just a pocket muffin, I'm eating, I'm bulking, bro. Yeah, it's fine, bro, I'm bulking. It was a mistake, which I stupidly made twice. So yeah, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, it was my fault. This is why I recommend a lean bulk. Now, I'm actually quite new to lean bulks, and I've been training since I was 14 and I'm 32 now. So you can see how many mistakes I made because I don't look as good as I could, right? But about 3 years ago, I did my first lean bulk. And what I learned from doing that lean bulk was that I was able to gain a lot of muscle, gain strength, but look good throughout the whole year. And by the end of it, I only had to do, what, 8 to 12 week mini recomp or mini cut to get back to the level of leanness that I was at the start, which meant I can get straight back onto a lean bulk. Now, you've probably heard this being talked about before. A lot of people call it a main gain, I believe, which I'm a big fan of. And to be honest with you, the people that talk about doing a main gain are the people that have got decades of experience. So listen to them. I think Greg Doucette said it. I think he said it. I try not to watch fitness content because it does my head in, but I'm sure he said it. And to be honest with you, most of his content is pretty spot on. So I ain't gonna argue with him. He certainly has more experience than me. Even if he does sound like the parrot from Aladdin. Make sure you drink your BCAs. Make sure you buy my cookbook. No, that's too aggressive. He's more high-pitched testosterone. I can't even do it. Anyway, Greg Doucette references aside, lean bulking, I would say, is definitely the way forward. Now, I've actually done this with my clients as well, and it means that they can bulk for a lot longer and look good for a lot longer, and then by the end of it, they've only got to do a small cut. So that's why I have this phase second. You get lean, grow as much muscle and strength as possible, and then whilst you're lean and strong and going really well, you slowly build up the calories, add reps, increase the time under tension, work on any weak areas, and start building up more size and definition while still keeping the physique lean. And to be honest with you, I think this is the best place to be because you've got all the calories, all the carbs, all the glycogen, you're thick and full, but you're also very, very lean. Now, again, every single person's different. Some people might do this reverse diet phase, gain a bit of size and go, cool, that's me. I look great. I'm happy with that. Now, depending on how much muscle you want to add, you might end up continuing to sort of lean bulk and bulk for longer and add more size, which is going to be most people. If you're skinny fat, you've got a lot of muscle you can still build and add to your physique, and it's not going to happen overnight. Building a physique can take years, especially if you're not taking any drugs, which I wouldn't recommend personally. So once you've done that overload phase, you can either continue it and basically lean into sort of more of an extreme bulk and try and add more size. So at the end of this overload phase, you would have kept yourself yourself really, really lean, added a bit more size, added a bit more strength, and also increased your food and calories. And some people get to the end of this phase and think, cool, that's me, I look great. Now, if you still want to add more size, which is most men, especially if you're starting off skinny fat, you've still got a significant amount of muscle you can add, we then work into a building phase, which essentially is just a full-blown bulk. Now, the trick to this full-blown bulk is making sure that, again, the surplus of calories is not tremendously high. You don't want to just yeet those numbers up to 1,000 calories in a surplus and add an extra meal every other week, because you're just going to gain body fat. It's going to be very stressful for you to keep up with if you've got a busy schedule, trying to fit in all those meals. You're going to be sluggish, tired. You're going to be on the toilet every 5 minutes. It's just not great, and it's not even needed. Back in the day, the pro bodybuilders would do it that way, which is awesome, but they were also taking performance-enhancing drugs, so they need more calories. They're training at a higher rate. They've got more muscle. They need higher calories to reach those levels. If you're skinny fat and you're not taking drugs, which if you're watching this video is probably you, and that's what I would suggest, then a small calorie surplus over a longer period of time with a solid training plan that has clear overload metrics is going to benefit you the most. So this building phase, a small surplus of somewhere between 250 to 500 calorie surplus is the best way to go about it. That means you're going to gain more muscle and less body fat. It's easier to manage, and you're going to stay as lean as possible throughout. Now, don't get me wrong, everyone's different. Just because you're in a 500 calorie surplus, this month doesn't mean that that target's going to be the same the next month. It's just very important that you're paying attention to these numbers and tracking them using something like MyFitnessPal or writing it down in a notepad, whatever, because eventually what you're eating is not going to be enough anymore. You're going to have to increase the calories as you add more muscle tissue. The harder you train, the more muscle you gain, the more calories you're going to eventually need. Again, you can use the free nutritional blueprint down below to download that and work out the numbers specifically. Now, what I do with my clients is we do track their weigh-ins every single day, so we can see any fluctuations and then look at the weekly average. We track their food, their calories, macros, and look for it every single week to make sure, one, that it's accurate, because some people think, oh, I've been tracking and it doesn't work, but they've actually been tracking things wrong. I had one client track a bag of protein as 100 grams. So he'd scan the bag, say 100 grams, go, yeah, I have my scoop of protein. But 100 grams from this bag is 4 scoops, because one scoop is 25. So he was tracking 4 scoops, and I was saying to him, bro, that's way too much in one go. You're going to be shitting yourself. Your body's not going to absorb that much protein in one big go if it's from liquid protein. And he was like, well, I'm only having 1 scoop. And I was like, but you're tracking 4. He goes, well, I just scanned the bag. So it was wrong. So going through their food properly like that will help make sure that their food is accurate. And then we also go through their progress photos and their overload performance metrics in the gym. And this just means that we can make sure that we're adjusting and seeing progress every single week. And we obviously look at their progress photos to assess what's improving, any lagging areas, etc. And go through all their form and technique to make sure that improves. Because you can add reps and weight all you want, but if your form's not getting better or it's getting worse, you're not actually going to get the time under tension and quality repetitions that you need. So because of all those things, it means that when the client needs to change their calories or the numbers or their workout routine or make any adjustment at all so they don't hit a plateau or hit a wall, all the data's there. So I highly recommend that if you're on a bulk, if you're trying to gain muscle and size, you're reviewing these numbers. Your weigh-ins, your food, your macros, your progress photos, your lifts, your reps, etc. And if that does sound a little bit overwhelming and you're a little bit stressed about trying to do that yourself, or you would just like some help for me to do it, you can drop me a message on Instagram at Elite Transformation Project. Or if I have spaces available, there will be a call booking link in the bio. You can book a call, we can have a little chat and see if it's right for you. If you want me to actually help you go through that and actually coach you one-on-one, the option is there. If not, log this stuff yourself and pay attention to it, and I would review it weekly so you're not wasting any time. Because if you don't review it for say 4, 5, 6 weeks, you could be doing the wrong thing for a long time and you won't even notice it. Whereas if you're reviewing it each week, you'll see the progress and you'll be able to make adjustments. And to be honest with you, if you're seeing progress, you're going to be crazy motivated. If you're not seeing progress, you're not going to want to stick to it. So sometimes just seeing your progress weekly is enough to keep you going. So that brings me to the last and final phase of fixing skinny fat. And I simply just call this bulletproofing. So let's just recap. We've done a recomposition where we've lost body fat, gotten stronger and gained a bit of muscle. Then we've done an overload phase where we've increased the calories up to new maintenance levels, increased performance metrics and added a bit more size. And then we've gone all in on a bulk, dramatically added muscle size, improved performance metrics, and basically gone from skinny fat to big and muscular. The bulletproofing phase is very, very simple. It's almost like a maintenance phase, and it depends on the individual, where you're at, and how well you're responding to the training, depending on your genetics. But at this point, you normally do a mini recomposition from the end of the bulk, just to dial it back in and get yourself as lean as possible. And by this point, you'll be bigger, stronger, and leaner, and you might look in the mirror and go, damn, that's exactly what I wanted. Problem solved. I've got my dream physique. I've fixed the skinny fat physique. This is my new default. And that means you've now bulletproofed your physique so you can keep it for life. You've got more calories for maintenance, so you're not going to accidentally gain all the body fat. And you've got a load more muscle, which is going to be easier to sustain because you've built it. So this is just where you learn where your maintenance calories are, what kind of training routine you need to do to sustain the physique, essentially bulletproofing it or locking it in. Now, some people want to jump between these phases. Most of the time, once you've gotten rid of the body fat and you've done a lean bulk, you don't really gain back the same amount that you had at the start. So what I would generally do at this point is figure out any weak areas. For me, my chest is shit. So So I'll say, right, okay, well, I finished my recomp, I've done my reverse diet, I've done a bulk, I've dialed it down, I'm looking good, but I wouldn't mind a bit more size of my chest, maybe grow my arms a little bit more. Cool. I'll go straight back to a reverse diet, build myself back up, and go on a growing phase again. That's why I broke down these phases, to make it very easy and predictable to know what to do to fix your physique. And that's one of the reasons I call this video the only way to fix your skinny fat physique, because a lot of people will be like, oh, skinny fat, yeah, just do keto, mate. Or have you tried carnivore? But they're not talking about the calories. And if the calories aren't right, the results aren't going to be right. And you can do all the running and cardio you want, which is great. I'm not knocking it. If you like doing that, do it. But if you do too much cardio and not enough resistance training, you're not going to gain muscle as a skinny fat person. I even had a client who worked with me for a year, did an amazing job, got a great transformation, said that he wanted to start doing more triathlons and marathons and playing around with that kind of stuff. So he went along his way. I said, great, carry on with that, but just don't forget, keep up with what we've been doing so far. A year later, on New Year's Eve, he messaged me saying, hey mate, do you have any coaching spaces? And I said to him, well, you don't need any help. What's going on? And basically, because he did loads and loads and loads of cardio, he actually lost muscle and surprisingly gained body fat despite him exercising so much. So if your natural default physique is a skinny fat physique, I would avoid doing excess cardio. But if you're massively overweight, excess cardio is not going to be a problem if you're massively overweight. So I hope this video has been eye-opening, giving you some good ideas, made it a little bit more clear on what you should be doing as a skinny fat guy, because you go to the average PT and they're going to tell you, oh yeah, let's get on the treadmill, mate. We do a 15-minute warm-up and then we do some stretches and then we get you on whatever machines are available, and then doesn't matter about the overload, doesn't matter about what calories you have, and let's just do a weigh-in. Okay, see you later, see you next week. And they're going to count your reps, and just, there's no plan, there's no structure. If you're just trying to be a bit fitter and a bit more healthy, that's fine. If you're an elderly person and you've got muscle imbalances and other issues, then that might still be a great choice. But coming from someone that's got their level 2 and level 3 and worked as a PT in a gym for several years, they're not going to help you if you're a skinny fat physique unless they've done it themselves and been through that themselves. So I kind of hate myself saying this is the only way, because you know there's always an exception to the rule, but I wanted to make sure that this was simple, crystal clear. 1, 2, 3, 4, get those phases done and you will have your dream physique. Now, if you have any questions about this, feel free to drop a comment. You can message me at Elite Transformation Project on Instagram. And if you want to work with me one-to-one and actually make sure you get guaranteed results, you can book a call via the link in the description if I have any spaces. Make sure you like and subscribe, download all the free stuff that's in the bio. And if there's anything else I can do to help you out, always feel free to just ask.